Block my road. They forgot I built. ChatGPT said, you ever have one of those weeks where you wake up, grab your coffee, and the universe has decided you're the main character in someone else's bad story? Yeah, that was me when the HOA were kicked off. I'm Morgan Powell, and if you'd told me a few years ago I'd be standing toe-to-toe with a homeowners association in a courtroom brawl over a strip of gravel, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are, and let me tell you, this one had everything. Concrete, forgeries, and a villain with sunglasses so big you'd think she was hiding from the sun or the law. So back up a sec. I'm a builder at heart. 20 years as a civil engineer, more blueprints than I care to remember, but eventually, I traded steel for pasture, 320 acres. Out in Blackstone County. Every nail, every beam, every barn, my work. But you know how it goes. No matter how sturdy you build a place, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And for me, that was the old right-of-way, a one-lane track through the trees. It belonged to 4 parcels, 3 still owned by folks like me, and 1 sold off to some developer who figured nothing says progress. Like cutting down every last pine and laying down a row of ticky-tack houses called Chestnut Oak Reserve. And with them, of course, came the HOA. Enter Karen Hollings. Picture this. Sunglasses indoors, attitude for days. Always talking like every square inch of dirt has a price per foot. At first, it was just annoying. Fancy letter in my mailbox. Welcome to the neighborhood. Please pay your dues. I called, set them straight. No, thanks. My easement predates your whole development. They didn't listen. Pretty soon there were signs, cameras, and more calls than a telemarketer at tax time. Then things escalated. Sunday night, I get a call. Lady starts lecturing me about benefiting from their infrastructure. I shut that down real fast. I tell her, that's a servitude from '96, not your playground. She hangs up. But these folks are stubborn. Next week, a gate shows up, shiny, steel, keypad, the whole 9. Lucky for me, the contractor left the default code taped right on the box. Classy, right? I drove through, mailed copies of my deed and easement agreement to the HOA, and asked to be left alone. You'd think that would be enough. But, nope. These folks saw neighborly boundaries as just another thing to bulldoze. I should have seen what was coming. Early one morning, Devin, my right-hand man, only person I trust with the big rigs, calls me voice tight. Boss, road's blocked. You gotta see this. I hit the drive, dust flying. When I get there, the sun's barely up, but you can't miss it. A 6-foot trench sliced straight. Across the road, big concrete barriers drop behind it, like we're building the Berlin Wall. For guys in vests, a dozer, and trucks with HOA magnets slapped on. Devin's just standing there, arms crossed, looking at me like, now what? One of the workers, tall, tired, zero interest in conflict, tells me, can't come through. Orders from the president. I hit record, let him say his piece. Then hit him with the facts. Easements legal, roads shared, and what they're doing is obstruction. He shrugs, just a contractor. But see, I know the rules. My farm's on a state AG program. Blocking this road isn't just a headache. It's risking federal contracts and real money. So, I call the sheriff. Deputy Bowers shows up. Good guy, seen him at the co-op. He whistles when he sees the mess. I hand over my phone, show him the recordings. The workers flash some sketchy paperwork claiming the HOA got a right-of-way transfer. I ask Bowers if it's recorded at the county. He's not sure. I am. I tell him I'll check the land records myself. Meanwhile, drivers from the HOA side are slowing down, filming the standoff. Good. Let the world see. Down at the courthouse, Mrs. Jenkins pulls up the '96 easement, 40 feet wide, perpetual, never revoked. Nothing new on file. I get a stack of certified copies, call my lawyer, Linda Reeves, tougher than a bag of hammers and twice as fast. She's already prepping a suit. I scan everything, send it over, and we get moving. Back at the farm, things get ugly. Devin tries a detour through a neighbor's pasture, breaks an axle, loses a whole morning's delivery. That's not just frustration, that's money out the window. State inspector shows up, clipboard in hand, asking how long I can stay compliant with my transport. Permits. Not long, I say, but I'm not the one blocking the road. He nods, not happy. Linda works fast. By sundown, We're on the judge's calendar for emergency relief. Next morning, I'm up before dawn, documents in hand, ready for court. Judge Harmon doesn't mess around. Linda lays out the case, easement maps, drone footage, the whole nine. The HOA's lawyer tries to bluff with a recent transfer, but the judge isn't buying it. Injunction granted, 24 hours to clear the road, or the sheriff gets involved. HOA tries for a stay, judge just says no. But then, twist, USDA calls. The HOA's been using fake easement control to apply for rural grants. If that pans out, we're talking federal loan fraud. Local reporter Elena Madsen gets wind, digs up emails showing the HOA forged a landowner signature, a guy named Thomas G. Calhoun, who doesn't even exist. Everything goes to Linda, to the USDA, and suddenly we're looking at felony charges, not just civil nonsense. The press shows up. My story gets out. Farmer held hostage by HOA bullies. HOA's board starts to splinter. Jim and Marlene, longtime residents, hand me a folder of internal emails showing Karen faked invoices, inflated dues, and paid her sister's company for landscaping that never happened. The board resigns, one by one. State freezes their nonprofit status. Treasurer flips. Karen's mugshot is all over local news. Meanwhile, Linda piles on with a civil fraud suit, and the feds start sniffing around. At the next county land hearing, the commissioner rules the road is a shared right-of-way, always was, always will be. Sheriff's deputies drag off the last of the barricades. Judge awards me damages, and the HOA is left in shambles. Karen tried to claim diplomatic immunity as HOA president when they arrested her at a luncheon. Didn't stick. She skipped bail, caught at the airport. The whole subdivision is scrambling, but the law's the law. You know what I mean? They thought they could block my road, shake me down, make me pay to use what's already mine. But here's the thing. I built this life myself, and I'll fight for every inch. By the end, all that was left were my dogs at my feet, a cup of strong coffee, and the sound of livestock trucks rumbling down a road no one's ever going to block again. So what's justice, anyway? Some say it's a courtroom verdict. Some say it's a neighbor finally admitting they were wrong. Me, I think it's when the right to your land is as unbreakable as concrete, and no one, HOA or not, can take it from you. But that's just my story. What about you? Where do you stand on community rules, land rights, and the kind of neighbor you'd fight for? Drop your thoughts below, because, trust me, this is one debate that's just getting started that you'd think that after winning in court, standing there on my own land with the sheriff's cruisers rolling off and the last concrete block being hauled away, the story would end. But let me tell you, in the real world, victory is never just one loud bang and credits rolling. Sometimes it's a slow, stubborn dawn with plenty of shadows left. The day after the ruling, I figured I'd get some peace, finally. Instead, my phone lit up at 5:30 in the morning. First a reporter wanting a fresh quote, then my insurance agent asking if I'd considered extra coverage for civil unrest, which got a laugh out of me. Devin was already back in the field before sunrise, trying to make up for the deliveries we'd missed, but his old Dodge was rattling worse than ever from that pasture detour. "Boss, we need to talk about the trailer," he said, and I just shook my head, because what I really needed was a break. Yeah, that happened. But peace wasn't in the cards, not with Karen Hollings still out on bail and half the HOA in total meltdown mode. I kept hearing rumors, some wild, some true. Apparently, after her arrest, Karen tried to call an emergency board meeting from a payphone at the county jail, but only 2 members showed up, and one of them was just there for the free donuts. You can't make this stuff up. Meanwhile, Linda Reeves, my lawyer, and, honestly, the kind of woman you'd want in your corner when things get ugly, was digging deeper. She called one night, voice sharp. "Morgan, did you know? Chestnut Oak's lawyer tried to file a restraining order against you for public disturbance?" I almost spit out my coffee. "You're kidding," I said, but she wasn't. "Don't worry," she added. "The judge tossed it before lunch. Keep your head down, document everything. They're desperate." And that's when things I caught the glint of headlights by the old fence line. The spot the HOA had always claimed was their boundary, even though the deed said otherwise. Out stepped a guy I'd never met. Maybe late 20s, city slicker look with the wrong kind of boots for mud. He said his name was Alan, new board member, wanted to talk. I kept my distance, just in case. He told me he and a handful of others were trying to dissolve the HOA before the state could shut it down completely. Said the community was tired, embarrassed, done with the drama. I could see the exhaustion in his eyes. For the first time, I actually felt a pang of sympathy. Not for Karen or her cronies, but for the regular folks caught in the crossfire. People who just wanted to mow their lawns in peace. But the deeper fallout was still coming. One morning, I found Devin standing by the mailbox, pale and shaking, holding an anonymous letter. Inside, a grainy photo of our barn and a single line. Not over. We both knew who'd sent it. I called the sheriff, added another camera by the fence, and kept my shotgun a little closer than usual. I'm not the jumpy type, but you don't take chances when people have already crossed every line. The press was relentless. Elena Madsen, the reporter, dropped by for a follow-up. She'd uncovered even more. Not just HOA fraud, but embezzlement. Falsified bids, kickbacks from a local paving company. The county prosecutor moved fast. New charges, more indictments. Chestnut Oak's bank accounts were drained by legal fees before they could even hire a new landscaper. Then came the parade of apologies. Neighbors dropping off pie or homemade jam, mumbling about not knowing what Karen was up to, or just plain admitting they were scared to speak out. Jim and Marlene Stafford, the couple who'd first brought me the internal emails, became regulars around the fire pit, telling stories about the old days, back when folks knew their neighbors, and the only rules were the ones you shook hands on. You know, in all that mess, I kept thinking about why I'd come out here in the first place. Why any of U.S. chase land? Build with our own hands, stake a claim. It's not just about the acres or the house, but about the right to breathe free and make something your own, even if you have to fight like hell to keep it. But just when I thought the dust had settled, another curveball. The FBI investigator, Agent Luis, showed up at my place in an unmarked car. He was polite, but all business. "Mr. Powell, we'd like your help with one more thing." Turns out, Karen and her legal advisor weren't just faking signatures. They'd been running a side hustle, applying for federal money using other people's properties as collateral. I walked him through every document, every email, every drone shot. By the time he left, the case had stretched far beyond Blackstone County. The last twist, though, was the one I never saw coming. A few weeks later, I got a call from a man named Robert Lane, a soft-spoken guy, not from the HOA, but from a state agricultural co-op. He'd seen the news. The court case, everything. "Morgan," he said, "what you did, standing up to that HOA, it's made a lot of folks rethink how we handle access and land rights. Would you be willing to speak at a panel next month?" I nearly laughed. "I'm just a farmer with a stubborn streak." He said, "Exactly. People need to hear from you." So that's how I found myself, a month later, in a town hall room full of ranchers, landowners, and more than a few wary lawyers. I told them what happened, straight up. The good, the bad, the weird. How sometimes justice is a phone call, sometimes it's a drone photo, sometimes it's just refusing to back down. Folks clapped, a few even cried. Afterward, 3 different people pulled me aside to ask for Linda's number. Now, looking back, I can't say I'd want to live through it all again, but I wouldn't trade the lesson for anything. Out here, your word is your bond. Your land is your legacy. And if someone comes for it with a shovel or a lawsuit, you stand tall, you dig in, and you don't blink first. But let me leave you with this. If you've got a story like mine, or a neighbor who thinks rules were made for other people, don't just let it slide. Speak up. Stand your ground. You never know how many folks are waiting for someone else to start the fight. And who knows, maybe the next chapter is yours. What about your town? Ever had to stand up to a bully with a fancy title and a stack of fake papers? I'd love to hear it. Drop a comment, share your war stories, or just say how you'd handle a Karen with a bulldozer. Because out here, we look out for each other. And that's something no HOA can ever take away.